Hi, Latika. Good morning.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And first of all, a very big congratulations on converting ISB PGP as well as IIM Ahmedabad, the 2-year MBA program. IIM Ahmedabad PGP.
Yes,
Excellent
ma'am.
work.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Latika, tell us about your background. Tell us, where you have graduated from and why are you looking at the MBA, your journey so far.
So, ma'am, actually, I did my graduation from IIT Bombay. So, I did my BTech in mechanical engineering. However, during my course, I realized that I'm probably more interested towards software. So, I took up projects and everything around software. And then I later ended up with an internship and a PPO at Morgan Stanley. So, I decided that I would like to first take up WorkX because I felt that at that point I was sure that I want to get into coding and I was getting a relevant role as well. So I decided to join Morgan Stanley. And then eventually at Morgan Stanley, when I was working, I realized that beyond my technical skills, also, there were certain other skills that I would need to develop to grow in my career, basically. So that's how the idea of wanting to get into MBA like popped in my mind. And I started looking at ways as to what all can I do and what all options I have. So that's how I ended up giving CAT. And I also decided that I would like to try for ISB. So that's how I also decided to give my GMAT. So that's like mainly the background.
So, Latika, there's one part of the story which is the CAT preparation. A lot of questions around that always come up. When do you start? What are the best ways
Right.
of studying for the CAT?
Basically, I feel that for CAT, the best way you can know like where you stand is you just give one mock or like one exam. I believe that is like one way to get started because you'll know like where you stand. Because many a times it happens we have this misconception that okay, I've been in engineering, so maybe quant will be quite easy for me, and maybe verbal is where I'll struggle. Or people have these kind of misconceptions. But like unless you give one exam and you get a feel of it, you won't realize like where you are actually standing. Now, for me, what happened is I had given CAT before, so I knew where I stood. And the last time that I had given CAT, I was sure that I had not prepared very like in a structured manner. I think that was missing in my last CAT attempt. So this time I decided that I'll go all in. Like I'll take up whatever course is required. Maybe I'll take up any help or whatever, and I'll take up a structured way this time. So that's how I decided to join up one of the coaching centers for IMS. So they had an online course for it. So not necessarily that I attended all classes because along with my work, it was not possible, but at least it kept me like active throughout. I was regularly in touch with the questions and I tried to keep solving them regularly. So that definitely helped. And for CAT, I think people have varying like experiences. Like some people are able to get it in even a month, hardly 2 weeks, whatever. But then some people require time. So it's really up to you that you identify where you stand and you give yourself that time, because if you give the time, I can guarantee you will be able to crack it. So I think that's the learnings that I've had with CAT.
And how many months for the CAT preparation should one allocate?
Sooner the better, I would say, but still, like for me it was around after July I actually started looking into CAT prep.
And now, when you look at CAT and GMAT, GMAT has also come up with the GMAT focus citation. So, theoretically, it seems as if there is some overlap in the syllabus. But what is the preparation like? You prepare for CAT, and then what all do you change or add on to your preparation so that you're ready for GMAT?
So I did it reverse. So I decided that I like to get done with my GMAT first because I felt that then I could focus on school applications and everything. So during May, June, I was focusing on GMAT. I do believe that the two exams are very different because even though the sections are same, like you have a verbal, you have data insights, and you have quant, the kind of questions and even just the test taking strategy is very different for both the exams. So for instance, in GMAT, you really need to solve all questions. Like if you miss out on a questions, you are given a higher penalty on your score. And that is something I realized very later on in my mocks. Like I used to spend too much time on the initial questions, and then in the last 5 or 10 questions, I used to struggle. And then only once when I solved all questions, I realized that really boosts up the score, even if you get like more number of questions incorrect. So just the test taking strategy is very different. Like whereas in CAT, you have to be very good at selection of questions. You need to know like what you can get done and just quickly move on from questions and focus on what you can get done. So that I think is a major difference. And in terms of preparing for each section. So for me, in GMAT, I think quant was quite easy for me. Like I was able to just solve some mock questions and I was able to get with it. However, the verbal section was definitely something that I had to put in a lot of time on, because although you'll feel that the questions are simple, like strengthen, weaken, it feels logical, but when you look at a question, the options are like very similar, and you need to get into that habit and thinking mindset of how to solve a particular question. And there are ways, like I had taken up a course for it and that really helped me. So I think that's definitely different for GMAT versus in CAT. It is more about comprehension. Like you should be able to read that 15-20 line long passage and then be able to like get the gist out of it. So that's how I think the verbal section is different. In terms of the data insights or DILR, I think that is drastically different. Like CAT has very more difficult questions. Like the level of questions is very difficult in CAT. In GMAT, it is more about presence of mind. It's not a lot of data, but you should be able to capture like 3-4 pages of different tables and that kind of data, and be able to, the questions are not difficult, I would say, for GMAT. It's just the time and the type of question that may be very different in GMAT. And finally, coming to quant, I think quant again will depend on like how comfortable you are with different topics. So I think that will be a little more personal for each person. But for me, it was quite smooth in GMAT. For CAT, I did have to like practice quite a lot, I would say.
Yeah, CAT is more tedious effort
Correct.
to put in. So this brings us to the application part. You decided to apply to ISB PGP, and then always had a plan of applying through the CAT score. We were still looking at what the CAT score would be like, etc. But still, given the preparation, I think things were pretty much sorted in terms of the track that was to be taken up. So tell us about the strategy that you had there, and what were some challenges in the application process, or any do's and don'ts on that front.
So as I mentioned, I had given my GMAT, so at least I was ready with my score by June end. So now I just had to decide like what to do, where to apply, and all of that. But I think after getting my GMAT score, the confusion started, because I started feeling, okay, I have a good score now also in GMAT. Then should I try for foreign MBA? And like many like distracting thoughts came up during that phase. Although I was very clear initially that I want to stay in India, but somehow after the score and everything, you start getting all these. I was confused, definitely. So I decided to talk to people. I think that was the best thing that I could do at that point. So I talked to some seniors of mine who were in different colleges like IIM, ISB, even somebody who had done it from a foreign college. So I discussed with everyone like what was their thinking, what was their mindset. I tried to just get an understanding of that. And after all that, I realized that, okay, everybody's choice is very personal. Like everybody has different expectations, like what they want from an MBA. So that way, I think it's not that you can just follow some one person's entire journey. Everybody will have a different opinion. So that's when I decided that, okay, even just talking to people is not helping. Maybe I need like a focused, like a counselor, or basically a coaching center which can help me decide with this. So that's when I started looking up and talking to different application centers who would help with the application aspect and deciding like what to do. And during my GMAT time, I used to follow a lot of GMAT club as well. So that's where I had come across GOALisB, and that's how I like got in touch with you as well. And I think that first conversation itself was like very comforting for me, and it was like very clarifying also. Like I got a very good clarity of like what I'm trying to achieve and how I can achieve it. So that was, I think, the stepping stone, because till that time almost a month had passed and I was just getting distracted in these thoughts. But then after that thought, I think I was quite clear that, okay, my vision makes sense, it aligns, and then that's how I decided to like work with you. And then for the application, I think like getting started early was the most important aspect. And I think you also pushed me a lot to, in the initial days, to come up to, just go back in my background, come up with all those stories, the first questionnaire that we filled. I think that was really helpful, because no counselor is going to tell you what to write in a essay. You have had experiences, you just don't realize it. So that was, I think, the most important aspect for ISB, to go through all that. And then also to decide in terms of like, and be more clear as to like why you are doing an MBA. What would you like to do after the MBA? So definitely start as early as you can. Get clarity on why you're doing an MBA and what would you like to do after an MBA. I think those are important aspects for any applicant.
Yeah, these are very simple questions, but I think we spent at least a month and a half just to get to the right places and doing that research. And then, how was the admissions process with the 2-year MBA programs? What tips would you have for anybody who's trying to apply to these programs in terms of maybe the admissions process, application, interview, anything?
So I think the important aspect for I think the B schools like ISB was the essays. So the questions at first will feel very intimidating. It's something like you're questioning your whole life, like what have I done? Those kind of questions, right? But that is what the school wants. They want you to like really think about why you're doing what you're doing, how your background aligns with what you're doing. So all of that aspects you'll have to focus on when you're like preparing for your essays. And I think one thing that we did really help, like just get all your stories first in line, and then you see how things connect together, how you can align them and use it in your essays. So I think that was the first important thing. Second is also talk to alums and talk to people, whoever you can find. Just because you might have a bias against something, or you might have a preconceived notion, but talking to people will just help you in understanding a new perspective, I would say. So that is again something that you can do to improve on your essays and just the application in itself. And then I think next important aspect is the interview preparation, because for ISB they'll really dig deep into who you are. So I was even questioned at the point like, okay, Latika, so what is something that you're uncertain about in your life? So it's something that can go like in any direction, the interview. So you really need to know yourself. I think that is the key word here. And secondly, for the interviews, I think the three things I had to focus on was one, my background, like how it ties with what I want to do. Second, why I want to do an MBA and why I'm trying to do it here in India, or I'm applying to ISB, those questions. And third is what after MBA. So even that matters, because ISB is a 1-year course, right? So it really is important that you have some idea of what you're going to do and why you want to do it. So those three aspects really helped me in the interview. And for that, obviously, there was a lot of hence and forth between Shruti ma'am, you and me, because I used to feel stuck at some point. And you maybe just helped me nudge in one direction, and that really helped me clarify my thoughts. So I think that really helped throughout.
Yeah, starting early actually gives you a lot of time to go back and forth and, vet out every kind of possibility or possible direction of the interview as well. So
Right, right.
that's where it helps. And you had a scholarship as well, right? Awarded from ISB.
I had got a 50% scholarship from ISB as well.
So Latika, the other do's and don'ts for people who are planning to take up on this journey, who are planning to write the CAT or the GMAT, go for ISB or the 2-year MBA programs. Any dilemmas that they usually face, what you can help them out with?
So I think anybody who is like in a position like me, like you're done with 2 years work ex, now you're contemplating like what you want to do and all. Like first thing is just talk to people, start understanding what different people have motivations, and you'll also get some more insights like what you'll get out of an MBA. Because maybe when you start, you think that okay, just about getting a higher salary or something, because there's this conception these days that okay, you don't need to do an MBA and all of that. But really it's up to each individual person. So just don't get I would say bogged down by all these peer random comments. Like talk to people who have been through it or who decided not to go through it. I think both aspects matter. And then obviously experts, like you get help. I think it will only help you basically. And third, I think next thing is that just get started, because even in CAT and all, the most important thing is like you start solving questions. Unless you do that and you just keep thinking, okay, I'm yet to do this topic, I'm yet to do that, it will just keep delaying, and then it will add up pressure in the end. So I think that those two will be really the important tips I would can give. So I had like a very good experience with GOALisB. One, I think because since the first call itself, like I was got clarity like what I can do, how it will help me and all that. And second is during that time I talked to other counselors as well, but I felt that here my vision more aligned with your thoughts as well, and that's how I decided to take up GOALisB. And I think during the preparation, the most important aspect I found was that you pushed me to just go beyond my comfort. By the time for the interview, I felt quite confident, quite prepared in terms of, and I just knew myself better. So I think that really helped. Even for the interviews and all, I think many of the aspects we had already covered. Like they got into like why I want to do product management. We went into very deep questions in that. Then why MBA? all of those questions. I think you have a very structured process, so that really helped me. And then later, even for CAT, I think I got help for the interview preparation, and also I had a very good experience, I would say.
Thank you, Latika. I think this preparation that you had for the ISB interview also carried forward towards your IIM interview, and then other things that we added on to the IIM interview.
Yes,
All
definitely.
of that connected well.
Because even in CAT, like during CAT, you don't get any of these questions, but later when you have to fill application forms for schools, they will have those essay kind of questions. And even in interviews, obviously, they do go into MBA. So those aspects definitely carried forward. And then here, I didn't have to focus too much on that. I had to focus more on, let's say, the current affairs and all that. So that balance definitely helped me. And I think another important thing was like after GMAT, ISB, the confidence at each level just kept adding up. So that also helped, I think, for me in my journey.
A lot of times I
Yeah.
see, people are working, especially in the CAT journey, people are working for months and months on the CAT. And the moment it comes to the interview prep, they just let go. They assume that
Correct.
things will happen on their own. So the interview prep at that level also becomes equally important if you really have to crack, a good school in the 2 year
Correct.
set as well.
Correct. And it comes very fast. Like CAT happens, the result comes, and then interviews pretty much are there by Jan. So you don't get a lot of time. So it is good if you can just keep connected with current affairs a little bit. For me, the YMBA, all that aspect was sorted. So that helped.
Thank you, Latika. Thank you for your time. It is a lazy Sunday, but appreciate taking out your time today. All the
No,
best
no,
for your
definitely.
journey forward. Bye.